The Missouri plains of 1891 stretched endlessly, golden grass swaying beneath an open sky so wide it seemed to swallow every worry. To most, the plains were dull and lonely. To Evelyn Carter, they were alive. Every gust of wind carried memories of her late mother's voice, telling her to paint the world as you see it. Evelyn wasn't just an artist. She saw what others overlooked, a shimmer in people's eyes, a story waiting to break free. But the town of Dry Creek didn't value dreamers. They wanted hard workers, not a widow painting mysterious scenes in an old barn. Her only support was Clara, her bright-eyed daughter who believed her mother's paintings held magic. Evelyn often laughed and brushed off the idea, but deep down, she wondered if Clara was right. Sometimes, her paintings felt like they came from someplace ahead of time, a future moment waiting to happen. And that strange feeling returned the night she painted three distant riders approaching through a storm, even though the sky outside was perfectly clear. The next morning, Clara raced out the door with her school book, kissing her mother's cheek before sprinting down the dusty road. Evelyn smiled, watching the girl's brown braids bounce with every step. Returning inside, she paused at the canvas she had finished the night before. Three riders emerging from dark clouds. She had dreamed their faces, stern, unfamiliar men. The painting unsettled her. A sudden knock jolted her from her thoughts. She opened the door to find Sheriff Whitlock, hat in hand. His expression was grave. "Evelyn, there's news. A group of dangerous outlaws was spotted riding toward Dry Creek. We're telling families to be cautious. Keep your doors locked." Her heart nearly stopped. Three riders. Whitlock's description matched her painting exactly. She swallowed hard and nodded, masking her rising fear. As he left, she turned toward the shadowy barn where stacks of her older paintings leaned against the walls. Pieces she never showed anyone. Pieces that might not be imagination after all. The afternoon dragged on in eerie silence. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Evelyn tried to focus on chores, but her mind kept drifting back to that painting, and all the others. There was the portrait of the cracked church bell. 6 months later, lightning split it in two. The painting of old Mr. Turner's collapsing wheat silo. It fell the following summer. And the one she had destroyed. A grave marked with Clara's ribbon. She refused to believe that one. She never would. Was she foreseeing the future, or accidentally shaping it? That evening, Clara returned from school talking about spelling bees and a stray puppy the teacher brought. Evelyn held her daughter tightly, the warning heavy in her chest. Clara frowned. "Mom, you're shaking. What's wrong?" Evelyn forced a smile. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just tired." But as she put Clara to bed, she caught sight of the painting again, the three riders inching closer in the storm. And she wished she had told the sheriff more. After tucking Clara in, Evelyn grabbed a lantern and stepped into the barn. Cobwebs dangled like old memories, and dust danced in the lantern glow. She hesitated before unveiling the stack of hidden canvases. Parts of herself she feared. She noticed something she had never seen before. The paint on each future event painting seemed slightly wet, as if still alive. Her hand hovered over one, a schoolhouse in flames. She had painted it a year ago, dismissing it as an uncomfortable nightmare. Now her breath caught. Clara's school. Same white frame, same bell tower. Her knees threatened to buckle. Number. It couldn't be real. It couldn't happen. "Mom?" called a soft voice. Evelyn gasped, turning to find Clara in her nightgown, sleepy-eyed. Evelyn steadied herself, hiding the canvas. "Let's go inside," she whispered, fighting tears she didn't want Clara to see. At sunrise, Evelyn escorted Clara to school, gripping her hand a bit too tight. The teacher, Miss Hartwell, noticed the worry etched on Evelyn's face. Everything all right? Evelyn considered lying. Instead, she quietly said, just be careful today. Please, Miss Hartwell offered a confused nod. Evelyn walked back home quickly, fear urging her steps. She stood in front of the burning school painting again. What if she removed the bell tower before it became real? What if she changed what she saw? Hands trembling, she grabbed a brush. She painted over the bell tower, smoothing the flames away, replacing them with peaceful sky. As the final brushstroke dried, Evelyn's heart slowed. She felt hope. Maybe she wasn't cursed. Maybe she was meant to protect, not predict. But hope can be fragile, and fate doesn't like being challenged. A thunderous crack echoed from the plains that afternoon. Evelyn stepped outside. The sky, once bright blue, had darkened into a roiling storm. Lightning forked across the horizon, and there, barely visible through sheets of rain, came three riders, exactly as she had painted. Her stomach twisted. Sheriff Whitlock rode into town shouting orders, but the outlaws reached the trading post first. Gunshots split the air. People screamed, diving for cover. Evelyn sprinted toward the school, desperate to reach Clara. The riders made for the same direction. The school bell rang frantically as children scrambled inside for safety. Every nightmare feeling she'd ever suppressed surged to life. Her attempt to change the painting hadn't stopped anything. She wasn't in control of fate. She was staring straight into it. Evelyn burst through the schoolhouse door just as the children huddled beneath desks. Clara ran into her mother's arms, shaking. Gunfire boomed outside. Sheriff Whitlock yelled, "Stay low!" Evelyn's heart pounded as she looked up and froze. The bell tower, the one she had painted over, stood intact. But a lightning strike hit the roof anyway. The bell clanged violently as flames started licking the edges of the wood. No, she choked, realization crashing into her. The future hadn't changed. It had only shifted. The fire had started beside the school instead. Evelyn knew what would happen next. The fire was spreading too fast. They had to get everyone out, now. She grabbed Miss Hartwell's arm. "We need to evacuate. The building won't hold." The teacher hesitated only a moment before shouting orders. Children flooded into the muddy yard, Evelyn shielding Clara with her body. The bell tower groaned, threatening to fall. As the tower began to collapse, Sheriff Whitlock rushed forward, waving them away. "Run!" The children sprinted toward the church across the field. Evelyn's lungs burned as she pulled Clara along. Behind them, the tower gave one last shriek. Crash! The schoolhouse roof sank inward, flames roaring. Had they stayed a minute longer, dozens would have perished. Evelyn looked back, knees weak. Clara tugged her sleeve. "Mom, you saved us." But Evelyn's voice trembled. "I tried to stop this. I changed the painting." Clara didn't understand, but she squeezed Evelyn's hand, grounding her. Sheriff Whitlock approached, panting. "You knew something was going to happen, didn't you? I saw how you warned the teacher." Evelyn swallowed, staring at the smoke twisting upward, grief, fear, and guilt entwined. Should she tell him the truth? Would he believe her? Her secret, once contained on dusty canvas, was now bursting into the open like flames. That evening, townsfolk gathered inside the church basement, shaken but alive. Children whispered about the fire, and Clara stayed glued to her mother's side. Sheriff Whitlock stood watch, still eyeing Evelyn with suspicion wrapped in curiosity. Finally, he pulled her aside. "How did you know?" "No lies, Evelyn." Her voice cracked softly. "I paint things before they happen." He stared. "You're saying you're some kind of prophet?" "I don't want to be," she whispered, "but the paintings come true. Even when I try to change them." Whitlock rubbed his temples. "You're telling me you saw the fire?" She nodded. I've seen other things too. Terrible things. His expression darkened, not with disbelief, but with worry. Then you need to show me those paintings. If more trouble is coming, we need to know. Evelyn hesitated. The thought of exposing her painful secret made her chest tighten. But if she didn't, who might suffer next? Under lantern light, Evelyn led the sheriff into the barn, the shadows stretching long and uneasy. She uncovered painting after painting, each revealing a possible disaster. Flooded fields, a derailed train, a gravestone marked only by lilies. Whitlock's face paled with each one. "This is too much for one person to carry," he muttered. Evelyn's voice quivered. "You don't understand. I'm afraid the tragedies happen because I paint them, like I'm causing the future, not saving it." The sheriff shook his head firmly. "No, you gave us a chance today. Lives were saved because you spoke up." She wished she could believe him. Suddenly, he paused at a canvas she had never seen before, one she didn't remember painting. Clara, grown up, tear-streaked, standing over a cross marked E.C. Evelyn's heart iced over, her own grave, her daughter grieving. Whitlock whispered, "Evelyn, what did you do?" But she had no answer, because she did not remember painting her own death. Evelyn stared at the canvas as if it might leap forward and swallow her. Her portrait in that painting looked peaceful, too peaceful. Flowers rested against her grave, but the sky behind Clara was painted in angry crimson streaks, violence, fear, a warning. Sheriff Whitlock cleared his throat. "Maybe this is years from now. You'll live a long life." "No," she whispered, fingers trembling. "Look." Clara was wearing the blue ribbon she wore just last week. This death wasn't a distant future, it was the near one. Her knees weakened, and she clutched a beam to steady herself. "Sheriff, if these paintings always come true," she said shakily, "then I have very little time." Whitlock glanced toward the door, worry in his voice. Could this be those bandits again? The distant rumble of thunder rolled across the plains, but this time Evelyn felt the storm wasn't in the sky. It was coming for her. Clara found her mother sitting alone, staring at that dreadful painting. The child's voice was soft. "Mama, are you going to be okay?" Evelyn pulled Clara close, burying her face in her daughter's hair. She wanted to say yes, but lies weigh heavy on a soul. She wiped her tears and spoke with quiet strength. "I don't know exactly what will happen, but I promise you this. I will do everything in my power to stay with you." Clara nodded, trusting every word. Fear no longer paralyzed Evelyn. It focused her. If fate wanted her gone, fate would have to fight. She wasn't just a painter of tragedy. She was a mother, and mothers protect. That night she set up her easel again. If the paintings showed tragedy, then maybe they could show salvation too. What if she painted a future where she lived? Her brush hovered above the canvas, but nothing came to her. The future remained frighteningly blank. Rain hammered the farmhouse as Evelyn and Clara slept uneasily. Sheriff Whitlock stood guard outside, rifle ready. Sometime after midnight, a scraping sound dragged Evelyn awake. Something, or someone, was inside the barn. Heart racing, she grabbed her lantern and crept outside despite the sheriff's protest. Inside the barn, shadows writhed like living things. Then she saw him. A man in a soaked black coat, dripping rainwater across the floor, his face half hidden beneath his hat. "You paint what happens next," he said, voice cold and calm. "That's quite a gift." Evelyn froze. He stepped closer, revealing a pistol tucked at his belt, and a scar across his cheek, the same scar she had painted on one of the three riders. He smiled without warmth. "You've been painting my business for months." The outlaw leader had come. Evelyn's breath shook in her chest. "What do you want?" "The future," he replied. "You're going to paint our success, every robbery, every ambush, so we don't make mistakes." She spat back, "Never." His hand went to his gun. "One way or another, you will." Before he could draw, Whitlock burst into the barn, gun raised. "Let her go." The outlaw ducked into darkness as a shot rang out. Horses screamed outside. The other two riders had arrived. Evelyn grabbed Clara, who had woken and run toward the barn in fear. Fire sparked in a hay pile. A lantern had fallen. Flames devoured the dry wood fast. As smoke poured upward, the outlaw's voice echoed in the chaos. "If you don't paint what I want, the girl dies first." Evelyn's world narrowed to one point. Clara must live, whatever it took. The barn roof began to burn. Sheriff Whitlock dragged Evelyn and Clara outside before the structure collapsed in a thunder of sparks. The outlaws fled into the storm, disappearing toward town. Whitlock cursed, "They'll cause hell before this is done." Evelyn stared at the barn, her paintings, her warnings, her hopes, all burning. Everything that made sense in her life was turning to ash. Clara wept into her mother's dress. "Your art! It's gone!" "No," Evelyn whispered firmly, lifting Clara's chin. "You are my art, my greatest creation, and I will not lose you." The fire crackled in angry defiance. Then Evelyn remembered. There was one painting not in the barn, the gravestone. Her own death still lingered, unburned. She turned toward town. If fate wouldn't change itself, she would change it manually. She would confront danger head-on and rewrite destiny with her own hands. The town of Dry Creek was in chaos when they arrived. Outlaws had barricaded the saloon and taken hostages. The sheriff and a few brave townsfolk held guns drawn behind wagons. Whitlock looked to Evelyn. "We need eyes inside." "If your visions can help, I don't have paintings anymore," she snapped. "Just fear." Then, like a flash, an idea struck her. If she could paint the future, maybe she could see it too. She closed her eyes, listened to the storm, breathed in courage. Images flickered in her mind. A lantern tipping, gunfire, Clara screaming, her own blood on the ground. She gasped. She saw how she would die, but also a possibility, a different outcome. "I know where the outlaw leader will be," she told Whitlock, "and I know how to stop him." Evelyn kissed Clara's forehead and handed her to Miss Hartwell. "Stay with her, no matter what," Clara sobbed, clinging desperately. "Don't go. Mom, don't leave me." Evelyn cupped her face gently. "I have to, for both of us." She pried free, leaving her daughter in tears. Every step toward the saloon felt like walking deeper into the painting of her own death. Inside, the outlaws shouted orders and threatened lives. Whitlock prepared a distraction, but Evelyn raised her hand. "No guns. He wants fear. He feeds on chaos. I won't let him choose how this ends." She walked straight into the saloon, unarmed. The outlaw leader turned, amused. "Well, the prophet arrives." Evelyn swallowed hard. "I'm here to make a new bargain." The outlaw leader circled her like a wolf. "And what do you offer?" "I'll tell you your future," she said steadily. "But it's not the one you expect." His smirk tightened. "Go on." Evelyn raised her voice so every terrified soul inside could hear, "You die tonight." The room fell silent. "You'll draw on me," she continued. "But Sheriff Whitlock will be faster. You'll fall right there." She pointed to a knot in the floorboards. "And the people of Dry Creek will live free because you didn't scare me." The outlaw sneered, finger twitching at his trigger. "You think speaking it makes it real?" "No," she whispered, "but believing does." His gun flashed upward, a single shot cracked the air. And then he dropped. Whitlock stood behind him, rifle still smoking. The outlaw stared at Evelyn in shock as he bled out. "You painted my end." His voice faded into silence. Evelyn exhaled, shaking, alive. The future had changed. Because she claimed it. Clara rushed into the saloon, tears and relief pouring out all at once. She leapt into Evelyn's arms, hugging her tighter than ever before. "You're alive," I prayed. I prayed so hard. Evelyn held her close, overwhelmed by love. "Your prayer was stronger than any painting." The townspeople celebrated around them, cheering, hugging, weeping. For once, Evelyn wasn't the strange widow with weird paintings. She was a hero. As the sheriff lifted his hat with a grateful smile, he said, "You saved us all. Don't ever doubt that your gift has purpose." Evelyn realized something profound. Her art had never been about predicting death. It was about honoring life. And life, she decided, was worth painting again. Days later, with town safe and Clara laughing again, Evelyn stood before a blank canvas in their rebuilt barn. But this time, she didn't paint warnings. She didn't paint shadows. She painted Clara's future, bright, hopeful, vibrant. A grown young woman smiling beneath a clear blue sky. No gravestone in sight. Clara peeked over her shoulder. "Is that me?" Evelyn smiled warmly. "Only one of many beautiful tomorrows." As the final brushstroke fell, a soft breeze drifted through the barn, not ominous, but comforting. And Evelyn realized she hadn't defeated fate. She had discovered something better. The future isn't painted by fear, it's painted by love. She set down her brush, pulled Clara into her arms and whispered, "From now on, we paint what we want to happen next." The plains outside shimmered in sunlight. For the first time in forever, the future looked kind.